Dr. Kevin Hayes stared at Commander Vextar, trying to understand what he had just heard. "You've been preparing to judge us? What gives you the right to judge humanity?" Vextar's four arms moved in what Kevin now knew was a gesture of sadness. "Dr. Hayes, your ancestors gave us that right when they created us. They programmed us to be peaceful and wise. They hoped we would become what humanity could not be." Before Kevin could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ancient facility. Red lights flashed on every wall, and a computerized voice began speaking in English. "Warning. Unauthorized access to classified systems detected. Emergency protocols activated. Contacting Terran Fleet Command." Dr. Lisa Parker grabbed Kevin's arm. "What's happening?" The main computer screen lit up with activity. Star charts appeared showing the locations of dozens of hidden facilities throughout the galaxy. Each facility was sending signals to the others, creating a network of communication that had been dormant for 700 years. "The ancient systems are waking up," Sergeant Pete Coleman said, watching data stream across multiple screens. "Whatever we activated down here has sent signals across the galaxy." Commander Vextar looked terrified. "This is what we feared would happen. Dr. Hayes, you have triggered something that was meant to stay sleeping." On the screen, Kevin could see messages being transmitted at faster-than-light speeds to locations throughout the galaxy. Each message carried the same basic information. "Human DNA detected. Authorization confirmed. Beginning reactivation procedures." "Reactivation of what?" Kevin demanded. His answer came from the computer's voice. "Terran Empire Emergency Protocol. 7 activated. Human genetic signatures confirmed. Beginning recall of all Imperial assets. Estimated time to full operational status, 72 hours. The screen showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light appearing. Each light represented a hidden facility, weapons cache, or automated system that was now responding to the emergency signal. "My God!" Dr. Parker whispered. "There are thousands of them. Hidden bases, weapon platforms, entire fleets in storage. The humans didn't just abandon their technology. They hid it and programmed it to activate if humans ever return to space." "Commander," Vextar activated his own communicator and began speaking rapidly in the Zephyrian language. Kevin couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clearly urgent. "What are you telling them?" Kevin asked. "I am warning my people," Vextar replied. "We knew this day might come, but we hoped it would not happen so soon. Your species is not ready for this knowledge or this power." The computer screen changed to show the location of Earth. Around the blue planet, previously invisible objects were becoming active. Massive space stations that had been hidden in the asteroid belt began powering up. Moon bases that looked like natural craters revealed themselves to be enormous military installations. "There's a battleship hidden inside the moon," Coleman said in amazement. "It's the size of a city. How did we never detect it?" The answer appeared on the screen as technical specifications scrolled past. The Terran Empire had mastered technology that could hide entire fleets in dimensional pockets, making them invisible to all known forms of detection. The weapons and ships that were now activating had been waiting in hidden dimensions for centuries. Ensign Amy Rodriguez was monitoring communications from the surface. "I'm picking up signals from orbit. Captain, Morrison is trying to contact us, but something is jamming our communications." Kevin realized what was happening. "The Zephyrians aren't jamming us. They're trying to prevent us from contacting our ship because they know what's coming." On the screen, a new message appeared. It was a video communication from someone in orbit, around Zephyr Prime. The face that appeared was clearly human, but wearing a uniform that Kevin didn't recognize. "This is Admiral Kate Foster of the Terran Imperial Navy," the woman said. "To all human personnel who have triggered this emergency protocol, be advised that Imperial assets are being reactivated throughout the galaxy. Report to the nearest Imperial facility for briefing and reassignment." Kevin felt his legs go weak. That's impossible. There can't be humans still alive from the old Empire. But as he watched, more communications came in from across the galaxy. Human voices speaking from hidden bases, reporting the status of weapons and fleets that had been waiting in storage for 7 centuries. Some of the voices sounded old, others young, but all of them spoke as if the Terran Empire had never ended. Commander Vextar saw Kevin's confusion. "Dr. Hayes, your ancestors didn't just hide their technology. They left behind skeleton crews to maintain the hidden facilities. Humans who volunteered to spend their lives in stasis, waiting for the day when humanity would return to space." The implications hit Kevin like a physical blow. Somewhere in the galaxy, there were humans who had been alive during the height of the Terran Empire. They had been sleeping for centuries, waiting for this moment. And now they were waking up with access to weapons that could destroy entire civilizations. "We have to warn Captain Morrison," Kevin said, moving toward the communication equipment. But Vextar stepped in front of him. "Dr. Hayes, if you contact your ship, you will be giving Admiral Foster your location. She will assume that you are part of the new human expansion and will place you under Imperial authority." "What's wrong with that?" Rodriguez asked. "These are our people?" Vextar's expression was grim. "Ensign Rodriguez, these humans have been in stasis for 700 years. They do not know about the Great Reset or why the Empire fell. They believe they are waking up to continue their conquest of the galaxy." Kevin realized the horrible truth. The humans who were now reactivating the Imperial fleets weren't the reformed humans who had chosen to give up their power. They were the original conquerors, preserved in time and ready to resume their domination of the galaxy. "They don't know that humanity chose to start over," Kevin said. "They think they're just continuing where they left off." The computer screen showed Imperial fleets beginning to move throughout the galaxy. Ancient battleships emerged from hidden bases and began traveling toward inhabited systems. The Zephyrian homeworld was one of their primary targets. "Admiral Foster has declared the Zephyrian system to be in violation of Imperial law," Vextar said, reading from his own communications. "She is demanding our immediate surrender and the return of all humans to Imperial custody." Kevin looked around the ancient facility with new understanding. The humans who built this place had tried to end their empire peacefully, but they had failed to destroy all of it. The worst parts of human civilization had survived in hidden bases, waiting to return. "We have to stop them," Kevin said. "Modern humanity isn't like the old empire. We've learned to be better." Vextar studied Kevin's face carefully. "Have you, Dr. Hayes? When your Captain Morrison discovered that aliens had better technology than humans, what was his first reaction? When your people learned that you were once galactic conquerors, were you disgusted or proud?" Kevin couldn't answer. He remembered feeling a surge of pride when he first learned about the Terran Empire's power. Even Dr. Parker had seemed excited by the advanced weapons they had discovered. "The Imperial fleets will reach this system in 18 hours, Vextar continued. "When they arrive, they will expect all humans to join them in rebuilding the Empire. They will see any resistance as treason." On the screen, Kevin could see more Imperial assets activating across the galaxy. Weapons platforms that could destroy stars, fleets that could conquer entire systems, and worst of all, the Galaxy Cleanser 9000 was beginning its activation sequence. "Dr. Hayes," Vextar said quietly, "my people have spent 300 years preparing for this day. We are ready to fight the returning empire if necessary. But first, we need to know what modern humanity will choose. Will you stand with your Imperial ancestors, or will you help us stop them?" Kevin looked at his team. Dr. Parker was staring at the weapon specifications with obvious fascination. Coleman and Rodriguez seemed torn between loyalty to their species and horror at what they had learned. Outside, the ancient machines of the Terran Empire were waking up after centuries of sleep. And somewhere in space, Admiral Foster was leading a fleet of humans who thought they still had the right to rule the galaxy. The choice that would determine the fate of every species in the galaxy now rested with a small team of humans who had stumbled upon their forgotten history. Kevin Hayes had to decide whether humanity deserved a second chance at the stars or whether their children were right to judge them. Dr. Kevin Hayes and his team reached the facility's main computer core just as the Zephyrians found them. Commander Vex-Itar appeared in the doorway with 6 armed soldiers, their weapons drawn but not aimed directly at the humans. Dr. Hayes, Vex-Itar said, his 4 arms moving in what Kevin now recognized as extreme nervousness. "You have seen enough. We must return to the surface immediately." "Why?" Kevin demanded. "Because we're learning the truth about human history? About what your people have been hiding from us?" Vex-Itar's large yellow eyes looked away from Kevin's face. "You do not understand what you have found here. This knowledge is dangerous for your species." Dr. Lisa Parker stepped forward, holding a data storage device. "We've downloaded the facility's historical database. We know that humans once controlled this entire sector of the galaxy. We know about the Terran Empire." The Zephyrian soldiers shifted uncomfortably at those words. Kevin noticed that their weapons were designed for humans, not other Zephyrians. The grip sizes, the trigger mechanisms, even the safety features were all built for human hands. "Commander." "Vex-Itar," Kevin said slowly, "those aren't Zephyrian weapons your soldiers are carrying. They're human weapons from this facility." Vex-Itar made a sound that the translator rendered as a deep sigh. "Dr. Hayes, there are things your species must learn gradually. The truth of galactic history is more complex than you realize." Sergeant. Pete Coleman had been examining the main computer terminal while the others talked. "Dr. Hayes, you need to see this. I found the facility's master historical database. It contains records going back 800 years. Kevin moved to the terminal, keeping his eyes on the Zephyrian soldiers. The computer screen was showing a timeline of galactic events that made his head spin. According to these records, humans had first achieved faster-than-light travel in 2089, not 2847 like Earth's history books claimed. This shows human colonies being established throughout the galaxy starting in 2095, Kevin read aloud. By 2200, the Terran Empire controlled over 2,000 star systems. "That's impossible," Ensign Amy Rodriguez said. "Earth was still using chemical rockets in 2089. Kevin continued reading, his voice growing more amazed with each discovery. First contact with the Zephyrian species occurred in 2156. At that time, Zephyrians had barely discovered fire and were living in primitive tribal societies. Commander Vex-Itar's entire body seemed to slump in defeat. "You were not supposed to find these records so quickly. We had hoped to prepare your species more gradually." "Prepare us for what?" Dr. Parker demanded. Kevin found his answer in the historical files. The Terran Empire didn't just discover the Zephyrians, they created modern Zephyrian civilization. Every major technological advancement in Zephyrian history was secretly provided by human scientists. The records showed a detailed timeline of human intervention in Zephyrian development. Fire was taught to them by human observers in 2157. Agriculture was introduced through carefully staged discoveries in 2165. Metallurgy, writing, mathematics, and basic science were all provided by humans pretending to be helpful spirits or advanced Zephyrians. "Your entire civilization is artificial," Kevin said to Vex-Itar. "Humans created you as an experiment in guided evolution." "Not created," Vex-Itar replied quietly. "Rescued. My people were dying from a natural disaster when your ancestors found us. They saved our species and helped us grow beyond what we could have achieved alone." Kevin accessed more files and found the complete story. The Zephyrian homeworld had been struck by a massive asteroid in 2156. The primitive Zephyrian tribes were facing extinction when human explorers arrived. Instead of simply relocating the survivors, the Terran Empire decided to use them as subjects for a long-term experiment in controlled development. They wanted to see if they could guide a primitive species into becoming advanced without the violence and cruelty that had marked human expansion, Kevin read from an official report. The Zephyrian Development Project was intended to create a peaceful, stable civilization that could serve as a model for future imperial policies. Dr. Parker was reading through scientific reports. The humans didn't just guide Zephyrian technology. They altered Zephyrian genetics to make them less aggressive and more cooperative. They literally redesigned your species to be peaceful. Kevin found records of the most disturbing part of the experiment. The humans had created artificial evolutionary pressure on Zephyrian society, secretly eliminating individuals and groups that showed too much independence or creativity. They had shaped not just Zephyrian technology, but Zephyrian culture and even Zephyrian biology. "This is monstrous," Rodriguez whispered. "They turned an entire species into lab rats." But Kevin was reading further into the records and finding something even more shocking. The experiment worked too well. By 2400, the Zephyrians had become everything the humans wanted them to be: peaceful, cooperative, technologically advanced, but completely dependent on human guidance. Commander Vextar spoke up. "The humans began to realize what they had done to us. Some of your leaders felt guilt about taking away our natural development. Others worried that they had created a species of slaves rather than true allies." Kevin found the records of the great debate that had torn the Terran Empire apart. Should they continue controlling Zephyrian development, or should they give the Zephyrians independence? Should they tell the Zephyrians the truth about their history, or let them believe they had developed naturally? The debate led to civil war, Kevin read from the historical files. Human factions fought for 50 years over the future of subject species like the Zephyrians. Some wanted to continue the experiments, others wanted to free all subject species and retreat from the galaxy. The files showed that the Civil War had been devastating. Entire star systems were destroyed as human factions used their godlike weapons against each other. Billions of humans died in battles that lasted for decades. In the end, the faction that wanted to retreat won. Kevin continued. Emperor Alexander Cross ordered the Great Reset in 2549, all human colonies outside. The Sol system were abandoned. All advanced technology was hidden or destroyed. The human subjects on Earth had their memories altered to forget the existence of the Empire. Dr. Parker found the specific records of the Memory Alteration Project. They used advanced genetics therapy to remove the capacity for certain types of memory formation from the entire human population. Then they systematically destroyed all records of the Empire on Earth and left the planet to develop naturally. "Why?" Coleman asked. "Why would they give up all that power?" Kevin found Emperor Cross's final message explaining the decision. He says here that humans had become corrupt and cruel. The power to control entire galaxies had turned them into monsters. He believed that humanity needed to start over, to rediscover their humanity without the corruption that came with absolute power. Commander Vextar stepped closer to the terminal. The Emperor made one final decision about the subject species. He gave us a choice. We could have our memories restored and learn the truth about our artificial development, or we could keep our false memories and be allowed to develop independently. "What did you choose?" Kevin asked. "We chose truth," Vextar replied. "My people have known about our artificial origins for 300 years. We have been waiting for humans to return to space so we could decide what to do with you." Kevin felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean, decide what to do with us?" Vextar's yellow eyes met Kevin's. "Dr. Hayes, your species created us to be peaceful and cooperative, but they also gave us something else. They gave us the knowledge and technology to prevent humans from ever again becoming the monsters they once were." On the computer screen, Kevin saw records of Zephyrian preparations over the past 3 centuries. They had built fleets, developed weapons, and prepared strategies for dealing with humanity's eventual return to space. The Zephyrians weren't primitive aliens impressed by human technology. They were the children of humanity, armed with human knowledge and waiting to judge whether their creators deserved to return to the stars. Dr. Kevin Hayes led his team deeper into the ancient human facility. They had been exploring for 6 hours and still hadn't reached the bottom levels. Each floor they discovered held more impossible technology and more evidence that humans had once ruled this part of the galaxy. "The elevator goes down 20 more levels," said Sergeant Pete Coleman, checking the control panel. "Whatever this place was, it's massive." Dr. Lisa Parker was studying her scanner readings. "The power source for this facility is incredible. It's been running continuously for 700 years without any maintenance. Our best reactors on Earth couldn't do that?" The elevator doors opened on level 15, and Kevin stepped out into a corridor lined with heavy metal doors. Each door had warning signs in English that made his blood run cold. Restricted access, authorized personnel only, extreme hazard, and most disturbing of all, planetary clearance weapons. "I don't like the sound of that last one," said Ensign Amy Rodriguez, her hand moving unconsciously to her sidearm. Kevin opened the first door and immediately stepped back. The room beyond was filled with devices that looked like nothing he had ever seen. They were sleek and dark, covered with displays showing readouts in languages he couldn't understand. But the English labels on each device told him everything he needed to know. "Stellar Igniter Mark 7, he read from the closest device, "capable of forcing premature supernova in main sequence stars." Kevin's voice shook as he read the specifications. "Range, 50 light years. Charge time, 6 hours. Warning, use only with Imperial authorization." Dr. Parker moved to another device. "This one is called a gravity bomb. It says here it can create artificial black holes with a duration of up to 72 hours. She looked at Kevin with wide eyes. "These aren't weapons. They're tools for destroying entire solar systems." Sergeant Coleman found a display terminal and activated it. A three-dimensional map appeared showing the local galaxy with thousands of star systems marked in different colors. According to this, the Terran Empire had weapons stationed in over 3,000 systems. Each location had enough firepower to sterilize multiple planets. Kevin felt sick as he read through the weapon descriptions. Humans had apparently developed technology that could crack planets, collapse stars, and even tear holes in space itself. The most terrifying device was labeled simply Reality Anchor Disruptor, with a warning that it could permanently alter local physics within a 10-light-year radius. "Why would anyone build weapons like this?" Rodriguez asked quietly. "Maybe they had enemies," Coleman suggested. "Something that required this level of firepower to fight." Kevin accessed more files and found his answer. The weapons weren't built to fight aliens. They were built to fight other humans. The records spoke of civil wars that lasted for decades, with entire star systems destroyed in battles between different human factions. "The Terran Empire wasn't peaceful," Kevin said, reading from the historical files. "They fought constantly among themselves. These weapons were used against human colonies that tried to rebel or break away from Imperial control." Dr. Parker was examining a device called a planet cracker. "The power requirements for these weapons are incredible. Each one needs the total energy output of a medium-sized star just to charge up. How did they even build them?" Kevin found technical manuals that answered her question. The humans of the Terran Empire had learned to harness the energy of black holes, tap into the quantum, vacuum, and even draw power from parallel dimensions. Their science was so advanced that they could build machines that violated what 21st-century humans thought were the basic laws of physics. "Look at this," Coleman called from another terminal. "These are deployment records. They actually used these weapons. The planet Kepler 186b was destroyed in 2387 for failure to comply with Imperial taxation protocols. 12 million humans died. The room fell silent as they absorbed the horror of what they were learning. The ancestors of humanity had become monsters, using godlike technology to destroy anyone who opposed them." Kevin opened another door and found something even more disturbing. This room contained biological weapons designed to target specific genetic markers. They could kill every member of a particular family line or everyone from a specific planet while leaving others completely unharmed. "This is insane," Dr. Parker whispered. "They had the power to commit genocide on a scale we can't even imagine." But the worst discovery came when Kevin found the command protocols for something called the Galaxy Cleanser 9000. According to the technical specifications, this device could sterilize all life in the Milky Way galaxy within 6 months. "It's designed to reset galactic civilization," Kevin read from the manual. "All organic life will be eliminated, allowing for controlled reseeding programs under Imperial oversight." He looked at his team with horror. "They built a weapon to kill everything alive in the entire galaxy." Rodriguez was staring at a display showing the current location of the Galaxy Cleanser. "It says here that the device is in storage at a facility called Deep Archive Station 7. The coordinates are only 3 light years from Earth." The implications hit Kevin like a physical blow. Not only had humans once possessed technology that made them gods, but those weapons still existed. They were hidden somewhere in space, waiting for someone to find them and activate them. "We need to contact Captain Morrison immediately," Kevin said. But when he tried to use his communicator, he found that it wouldn't work. Something in the facility was blocking all transmissions to the surface. "We're too deep underground," Coleman explained. "We'll have to go back up to contact the ship." But as they started toward the elevator, Kevin heard a sound that made him freeze. Footsteps were echoing through the corridors above them. Heavy footsteps that could only belong to Zephyrians. "I thought Vextar said he was staying on the surface," Rodriguez whispered. Kevin checked his scanner and saw multiple heat signatures moving through the upper levels of the facility. At least a dozen Zephyrians had entered the underground complex and were heading toward their location. "They're not here to help us," Kevin realized. "They're here to stop us from learning more." The team quickly gathered as much data as they could from the weapon systems, downloading files onto portable storage devices. Kevin found records showing the locations of dozens of other human facilities throughout the galaxy, each one containing enough firepower to conquer entire civilizations. "Dr. Hayes," Coleman said urgently, "we need to move. They're getting closer." Kevin took one last look around the weapon storage room. Somewhere in this facility were the activation codes for weapons that could destroy stars, crack planets, and kill entire species. The humans who built these things had been powerful beyond imagination, but they had also been capable of unthinkable cruelty. As they hurried toward a service elevator that would take them to a different part of the facility, Kevin wondered what had really happened to the Terran Empire. The official records claimed they had voluntarily given up their power, but after seeing these weapons, Kevin had to wonder if someone or something had forced them to stop. The footsteps above them were getting louder. Commander Vexistar and his soldiers were hunting them through the corridors of humanity's darkest secret. But Kevin was determined to get this information back to Captain Morrison. The galaxy needed to know that humans weren't primitives taking their first steps into space. They were the descendants of conquerors who had once held the power of gods in their hands, and those weapons were still out there, waiting to be found. 3 months had passed since the Liberty arrived at Zephyr Prime. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew lived in a special section of the alien city that the Zephyrians had grown just for them. The buildings were comfortable but clearly designed to keep humans separate from the main population. Dr. Kevin Hayes, the ship's archaeologist, spent most of his time studying Zephyrian culture and history. The aliens were happy to share their achievements but seemed strangely quiet about their past. Every time Kevin asked about ancient Zephyrian civilization, they changed the subject or gave vague answers. "Captain, I'd like permission to explore." "The third planet in this system," Kevin said during their weekly staff meeting. "The Zephyrians call it Kepler 442c. They say it's an old world with some interesting ruins." Jake looked up from his reports. "What kind of ruins?" "They won't say." "Exactly. Commander Vextar just mentioned that it has some ancient structures that might interest a human archaeologist. He seemed almost eager for me to go look. Dr. Lisa Parker frowned. That's odd. They haven't shown much interest in sharing anything important with us before. My thoughts exactly, Kevin replied. But this might be our chance to learn something real about this part of the galaxy. The Zephyrians claim they've been here for thousands of years, but I haven't seen any evidence of a long history. Everything looks relatively new. Jake thought about it for a moment. The Zephyrians had been polite but condescending hosts. They treated humans like interesting pets, showing them basic technology while keeping all the important secrets hidden. Maybe this was their chance to learn something useful. Take a small team, Jake decided. Dr. Parker, you go with him. Take Ensign Rodriguez for security and Sergeant Pete Coleman for technical support. Commander Vex's Tar can provide transport. 2 days later, Kevin stood on the surface of Kepler 442c looking at a landscape that made no sense. The planet was mostly desert, covered with strange rock formations that looked almost like melted buildings. The air was thin but breathable, and the gravity was close to Earth normal. This is weird, said Ensign Rodriguez, checking her scanner readings. The geology here is all wrong. These rock layers don't match up with natural formation patterns. Sergeant Coleman was examining what looked like a metallic structure sticking out of a hillside. Dr. Hayes, you need to see this. This metal has the same composition as the hull of the Liberty. Kevin hurried over to look. Coleman was right. The metal was definitely human in design, with the same alloy mixture that Earth shipyards used. But that was impossible. Humans had never been to this planet before. Commander Vextar, Kevin called, to their Zephyrian guide. What can you tell us about this structure? The alien's 4 arms moved in what Kevin had learned was a nervous gesture. Very old ruins. From before our time. We know little about who built them. Kevin studied Vextar's face. The alien was lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. But why would he bring them here if he wanted to hide something? Dr. Parker was using her geological scanner on the hillside. Kevin, you're not going to believe this. I'm reading a massive structure buried under this hill. It's huge, maybe the size of a city block. And according to these readings, it's been here for about 700 years. 700 years? Kevin repeated. That predates human spaceflight by centuries. I know. It doesn't make sense. Kevin looked around the strange landscape with new eyes. If there really was a massive structure buried here, they needed to find a way inside. He walked along the base of the hill until he found what looked like a cave opening. But as he got closer, he realized it wasn't natural. This is a tunnel, he called to the others. Someone carved this into the rock. The tunnel was perfectly round and smooth, clearly made by advanced technology. Even stranger, it was exactly the right size for humans to walk through comfortably. Too small for Zephyrians who were much taller than humans. Commander Vextar, are you coming with us? Kevin asked. The alien made a sound that the translator rendered as uncomfortable laughter. I will wait here. Zephyrian physiology is not well suited for underground exploration. Kevin found that answer suspicious, but decided not to push. Activated his helmet lights and led his team into the tunnel. The tunnel went straight down for about 50 meters, then opened into a vast underground chamber. Kevin's lights revealed walls covered with panels and screens, all dark but clearly artificial. The design was unmistakably human. This is impossible, Dr. Parker whispered. This is definitely human technology, but how can it be 700 years old? Sergeant Coleman found what looked like a power switch and pressed it. Lights began coming on throughout the chamber, revealing a sight that made everyone stop breathing. They were standing in what was clearly a human military facility. The walls were covered with monitors, control panels, and displays showing star charts. Everything was labeled in English, but the technology was far more advanced than anything on Earth or the Liberty. Look at this, Rodriguez called from across the room. She was standing next to a computer terminal that was displaying text in perfect English. It says this is Outpost Gamma 7, established in the year 2156. That's impossible. Kevin walked over to look at the display. The date was clearly shown, along with detailed records of the facility's construction and purpose. According to the computer, this was a research and monitoring station built by something called the Terran Empire. Terran means Earth, Dr. Parker said quietly. This is claiming to be a human facility from 2156, but humans barely had satellites in space at that time. Kevin began accessing more files on the computer system. What he found made his hands shake. The facility's records went back nearly 700 years, with detailed logs written by people with clearly human names. The entries described advanced technology, interstellar travel, and contact with dozens of alien species. Dr. Hayes, Coleman called from another part of the chamber. "You need to see this room." Kevin followed Coleman through a doorway into a smaller chamber filled with what looked like weapons and equipment. But these weren't like anything he'd ever seen. The weapons were sleek and futuristic, made from materials that seemed to shift and change as he watched. The equipment included devices that his scanner couldn't even identify. According to this inventory list, Coleman said, reading from a wall display, these are standard-issue items for Terran Empire soldiers: plasma rifles, gravity manipulators, quantum communicators, dimensional shields. Dr. Parker was examining one of the weapons. "The engineering on this is incredible. It's like nothing we have on Earth, but the grip is sized for human hands and the controls have English labels." Kevin found a personal log terminal and activated it. A holographic display appeared showing the face of a human woman. She was wearing a uniform he didn't recognize and speaking in clear English. Personal log, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, Terran Empire Marines. Date: April 15th, 2156. We've established Outpost Gamma 7 to monitor the developing civilization on Zephyr Prime. The locals show promise, but are still several centuries behind our technology level. Command has ordered us to maintain observation, protocols, and avoid direct contact until they reach appropriate development thresholds. The hologram continued. The Zephyrians are making good progress under our guidance programs. Their biotechnology development is proceeding as planned. We estimate they'll be ready for limited contact within the next 200 years. Kevin felt the room spinning around him. This log entry was claiming that humans had been watching and guiding Zephyrian development 700 years ago. It suggested that human technology was far more advanced than anything the Zephyrians had shown them. "There's more," Rodriguez called from another terminal. "Hundreds of log entries, technical manuals, star charts showing human colonies all over this part of the galaxy. According to this, humans controlled thousands of star systems." Dr. Parker was reading through a technical manual. "Kevin, this describes technology that makes current Zephyrian science look primitive. Faster than light communication, matter replication, stellar engineering, weapons that can destroy planets." Kevin accessed the facility's main database and found detailed records of human civilization spanning nearly 400 years of galactic expansion. The Terran Empire had apparently ruled most of the known galaxy, with Earth as its capital and thousands of colony worlds, but the records ended abruptly around the year 2550. The final entries spoke of something called protocol reset and voluntary regression procedures. The last log entry was from someone identified as Emperor Alexander Cross. "If you're reading this," the Emperor's recorded message said, "then humanity has forgotten its past and returned to the stars. The Great Reset has been completed. We chose to give up our power because we had lost our way. Perhaps when we return to space, we will be wiser." Kevin stared at the holographic message in stunned silence. According to these records, humans had once ruled the galaxy and then voluntarily given up their power and erased their own memories. "Dr. Hayes," Sergeant Coleman said quietly, "if this is all true, then the Zephyrians have been lying to us. They didn't develop their technology independently. Humans taught them everything they know." Kevin nodded slowly. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't a young species taking their first steps into space. They were returning con. Captain Jake Morrison felt his stomach drop as the USS Liberty came out of fold space. The ship shook and made loud grinding noises that should not happen during a normal jump. Sparks flew from control panels around the bridge as his crew worked. "To fix the damage. Status report," Jake called out to his team. The Liberty was humanity's newest exploration ship, built with the best technology Earth could make. It had taken them 5 years to build the quantum fold drive that let them travel faster than light. This was their first long-distance mission into unknown space. "Fold drive is offline, Captain," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from the engine station. "We made it to the Kepler 442 system, but the drive burned out. We're stuck here until we can fix it." Jake looked at the main screen showing the star system around them. 3 planets orbited a yellow sun similar to Earth's. The second planet looked blue and green, which meant it might have water and life. This was exactly what they had hoped to find. "Sir, we're getting multiple contacts on sensors," called out Ensign Amy Rodriguez from the detection station. "Big ships approaching fast from the inner system." Jake felt his heart race. This would be humanity's first contact with alien life. Everything they did in the next few hours would shape the future of both species. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 12 large vessels, sir. They're bigger than anything we've ever built. Much bigger." The alien ships appeared on the main screen as they got closer. Jake had never seen anything like them. Instead of the hard metal surfaces of human ships, these vessels looked almost alive. They had smooth, curved hulls that seemed to pulse with soft blue and green lights. The ships moved through space like huge fish swimming through water. "They're trying to talk to us, Captain," said Communications Officer Danny Walsh. "It's some kind of universal translator signal." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen changed to show the face of an alien being. It had 4 arms, large yellow eyes, and skin that looked like it was covered in tiny scales. The creature's mouth moved in what might have been a smile, but Jake could not tell if it was friendly or threatening. "Greetings, primitive beings," the alien said. Its voice was translated into perfect English, but the tone sounded like an adult talking to a small child. "I am Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Confederation. We welcome you to our space, though we are surprised to find such a young species has managed to travel between stars." Jake tried to keep his voice steady. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Liberty. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship with other intelligent life." Commander Vextar made a sound that the translator turned into laughter. "How charming. Your species shows promise, human Morrison. Perhaps in a few thousand years you might develop real technology." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept it under control. "Our technology brought us here. We've traveled over 40 light years from our homeworld." "Yes, we detected your crude fold space emergence," Vextar replied. "Very noisy and inefficient. Our ships mastered dimensional travel 3,000 years ago. We no longer make such primitive jumps that damage our vessels." On the screen, Jake could see more of the alien ship behind Vextar. The walls seemed to be alive, with veins of light running through them like blood vessels. Strange plants grew from the ceiling, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. Dr. Lisa Parker, the Liberty's head scientist, stepped forward. "Commander Vextar, we would be honored to learn about your technology. Perhaps we could arrange a cultural and scientific exchange." Vexatar's 4 arms moved in what might have been a dismissive gesture. "Dr. Parker, is it? Your species is too young for such exchanges. You still use chemical rockets and metal projectiles as weapons. You build your ships from dead materials instead of growing them from living tissue. You have not even learned to harness the power of stars." "We have nuclear fusion," Dr. Parker said, trying to sound confident. "Nuclear fusion," Vextar repeated, and more alien laughter filled the bridge. "How quaint. We grow our power sources from quantum organisms that feed on vacuum energy. Your fusion reactors are like campfires compared to our technology. Jake watched as several Zephyrian ships moved closer to the Liberty. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Each ship was at least 10 times larger than the Liberty, and they moved without any visible engines or exhaust. Captain Morrison, Vextar continued, we will escort you to our homeworld. Consider this a great honor. Few species get to see Zephyrian civilization before they have developed proper technology. You may observe and learn, though I doubt your primitive minds can understand what you see. Jake wanted to argue, but he knew they had no choice. The Liberty was damaged and outnumbered. These aliens could destroy them easily if they wanted to. We accept your invitation, Jake said through gritted teeth. As the alien ships surrounded the Liberty and began guiding it toward the inner planets, Jake heard his crew talking quietly among themselves. The aliens had made them feel small and stupid, like children playing with toys while adults watched and laughed. Dr. Parker walked over to Jake's command chair. Captain, their technology is incredible. Those ships are grown, not built. They're using living materials that can heal themselves and adapt to damage. Their energy systems are beyond anything we can understand. I can see that, Doctor, Jake replied. But something bothers me about all this. What do you mean? Jake looked at the alien ships on the screen. They seem too eager to show us how advanced they are, like they need to prove something. And why are they being so helpful? Most species would either ignore us or see us as a threat. Maybe they're just naturally friendly, Dr. Parker suggested. Maybe, Jake said, but he did not sound convinced. The journey to the Zephyrian homeworld took 6 hours. During that time, Commander Vextar gave them a tour of Zephyrian space through their communication system. He showed them cities that floated in space without any visible support. Space stations that looked like giant trees with buildings growing from their branches, and mining operations that seemed to convince asteroids to reshape themselves into useful materials. Every new wonder made the human crew feel smaller and more primitive. The Zephyrians had mastered biology, physics, and engineering in ways that humans had never imagined possible. But Jake noticed something strange. For all their advanced technology, the Zephyrians seemed very interested in human culture and history. They asked many questions about Earth, human society, and how humans had developed space travel. Their questions seemed oddly specific, as if they were looking for particular information. When they finally reached the Zephyrian homeworld, Jake stared in amazement at a planet covered in what looked like a single massive city. Buildings grew from the ground like crystal formations, connected by bridges that looked like plant vines. Ships moved through the air without making any sound. Welcome to Zephyr Prime, Commander Vextar announced. The center of our civilization for over 4,000 years. You are the first humans to see our world. Remember this moment, Captain Morrison. Your species may never reach such heights, but at least you have seen what true advancement looks like. Jake felt the insult, but something else bothered him more. In all their scans of this system, they had found no signs of other civilizations, no ruins, no abandoned settlements, no evidence that anyone else had ever lived here. For a species that claimed to rule this part of the galaxy for thousands of years, the Zephyrians seemed to exist in complete isolation. That seemed very strange to Jake Morrison.